She was barefoot, bleeding, and waving frantically in the middle of the highway, and still not a single car stopped. Lena's hands trembled as she gripped the steering wheel. Her heart was pounding louder than the rain hammering her windshield. It was past midnight on Route 86, the stretch between nowhere and never should have left. She hadn't meant to take that exit. Exit 17 had come out of nowhere, the sign half bent, barely lit, and not even on her GPS. She'd only turned off the main road because she'd seen flashing lights in the rearview mirror, blue, red, then gone. But no siren, no vehicle. She'd panicked anyway. Now she was on a desolate road, lined with trees too tall and too quiet, and her phone had lost signal 20 minutes ago. The girl had appeared out of the fog like a ghost, pale, hair clinging to her face, arms slashing through the air in desperation. Lena had swerved so hard she almost hit the ditch, but when she'd turned around, she was gone. No sign of blood, no footprints. Just wet asphalt and the echo of her own heartbeat. 3 hours earlier, Lena hadn't been planning this trip. In fact, she'd almost cancelled twice. But after finding the text messages on Matt's phone, the kind that said, "I missed last night already and she'll never know," she packed her bags in silence and left the key on the kitchen table. She didn't tell him she was leaving. She didn't even say goodbye, just got in her car and drove, away from him, the city, the lies, west, alone. The road trip was supposed to clear her head, let her breathe, let her feel something other than betrayal. But now, somewhere between mile marker 108 and fear she couldn't name, she felt less free and more hunted. The first time it happened, she'd convinced herself it was nothing. She'd stopped for gas in a tiny roadside station with one flickering light and a cashier who stared too long without blinking. While paying, she noticed the same silver SUV parked across the street. Tinted. Windows, engine running, she ignored it. 10 miles later, it was behind her again. Headlights dimmed. Following at a steady pace, she took a detour. It followed, then suddenly it was gone. No turn, no sound, just vanished. That's when the radio started acting up. One moment it was static, the next, a woman's voice, faint, almost singing, "Exit 17, exit 17, don't leave her alone." Lena nearly slammed the brakes. She turned the knob, nothing. All stations dead. She tried her phone again, still no signal, and then the girl. Lena sat in her parked car now, engine running, doors locked. She didn't know where she was, but the road behind her had vanished into mist. She tried to reverse. The car wouldn't move, no traction even though the wheels spun. As she stared into the darkness, her headlights flickered. Once, twice, then everything went black. "Come on," she whispered, smacking the steering wheel. From the corner of her eye, movement, she turned, a figure, just outside the passenger window. The same girl, drenched, crying, hand pressed to the glass, but her mouth wasn't moving. It was wide open, like a scream was stuck inside her throat. Lena reached for the door lock instinctively, but it was already unlocked. Click. The door creaked open an inch on its own. She screamed, slammed it shut, locked it again, and backed herself into the driver's seat, panting. When she looked again, the girl was gone. Lena didn't sleep that night. She stayed in the car, headlights off, clutching the emergency flashlight in one hand and the tire iron in the other. Morning didn't come, at least not how it should have. The sun didn't rise. The mist just grew brighter. And her GPS? The map was gone, just a blinking red dot with the words, "Turn around," she tried. This time, the car moved. She drove until the trees began to thin, the mist began to fade, and finally she saw signs of life, a small town, or what was left of it. Windows boarded, doors chained, no people, except one, an old woman standing outside. A rundown cafe, feeding birds that weren't there. Lena rolled down her window. "Excuse me. Do you know how to get back to the main road?" The woman didn't look up. "Exit 17, she said quietly. "You saw her, didn't you?" Lena froze. "What?" "The girl. She tries to warn them. Always too late." Lena stepped out of the car slowly. "What do you mean too late?" The woman finally looked at her. Her eyes were cloudy, milky white, blind. But somehow she saw everything. "She died here," the woman whispered. "Right on that road. They never stopped. Not one of them. So now she waits. And sometimes she chooses who to trade places with." Lena's throat went dry. "I didn't hit her," she said quickly. "I swerved. She was gone before I—" The woman raised a hand. "She doesn't need impact, just fear, just guilt, just a crack big enough to let her in." Lena backed away. "I'm leaving. She'll follow." Lena floored the accelerator. She didn't look back. Not once, but 30 miles out her rearview mirror cracked from the inside, and scribbled in condensation on the passenger window, she saw the words, "Thank you." She screamed, swerved. Car flipped. She woke up in a hospital, bandaged, bruised. Alive! A nurse hovered beside her. Kind face, gentle voice. "You were lucky," the nurse said. "A passerby saw the wreck and called it in. Your car was almost completely hidden down the ravine." "My phone?" Lena asked hoarsely. The nurse shook her head. "Was smashed." "My ID?" The nurse hesitated. "Well, that's the thing. There wasn't anything on you. No purse, no license, just this." She handed Lena a water-damaged note. It was torn at the edges in handwriting that wasn't Lena's. "Help me. Exit 17, please." Lena's heart dropped. She turned to the mirror beside her bed and screamed. Her reflection was not her own. He hadn't spoken a word since they found the backpack, but his eyes told a story no one wanted to hear. July 2019, Arizona desert. Noah didn't plan on going missing. He was supposed to be back home by Monday, finishing his thesis on environmental biology and showing up for his sister's engagement dinner. Instead, his name ended up on a list of unconfirmed sightings, unreliable witness reports, and one forgotten police file that no one ever followed up on. It all started with a road trip, him and his two best friends, Mason and Priya. One final adventure before real life swallowed them whole. They'd picked the least expected route, a 400-mile stretch, across the Arizona desert, camping under the stars, no GPS, no phones, just paper maps, solar lights, and promises of stories they'd laugh about for years. Except they didn't laugh, and only 2 of them came back. The first strange thing happened at the abandoned rest stop near mile marker 231. It was just past 2 a.m. They were supposed to drive through the night, switching drivers every couple of hours. Noah was on shift, Priya dozing in the back, Mason staring out the passenger window with his headphones in. The fuel light blinked, and the GPS, for some reason, showed no stations nearby for over 100 miles. But right then, they spotted it. A neon light in the distance. Flickering letters that once probably said food, gas, restrooms, but now just buzzed and blinked like a dying heartbeat. They pulled in. One car in the lot, a faded silver sedan with no license plate. Noah left the engine running. "I'll be quick," he said, stepping inside. The place looked like it had been closed for decades. Dust on the counters, half-empty vending machines, a rotted booth half swallowed by mold. Then, movement. Behind the counter, a man, middle-aged, thin, wearing a name tag that said, "Ask me anything." "Fuel?" Noah asked. The man nodded but said nothing. "How far's the next town?" The man smiled. A weird kind of smile, not cruel but hollow. "You're already past it." "What does that mean?" But the man only repeated, "You're already past it." Noah backed out slowly, stomach tightening with something that felt like nausea and fear. He got in the car, started the engine, and saw it on the rearview mirror, written in the dust, "Don't stop again." They tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone had written it before they even got in the car. But Priya couldn't shake it. "I have a bad feeling," she whispered, later that night when they camped by a dry riverbed. Like something's following us. Mason chuckled. We're literally in the middle of nowhere. Only thing following us is dehydration. Noah didn't laugh. That night, he dreamed of glass shattering, of something pulling him by the feet, of a door slamming shut, and his own voice screaming inside it. He woke up with a start and saw Priya sitting up in her tent, staring out into the dark. There's someone out there, she whispered. Noah listened. Nothing. Silence. Then, a low metallic scrape. He stepped out of his tent, holding his flashlight tight. Hello? No answer. Just sand. And then, a few yards out, a figure, standing, watching. It moved the second the light hit it. Fast, inhuman. When Noah chased it, there was no one there. But he did find something. A camera half buried in the sand, old, dusty. The screen cracked. He took it back to camp. It still turned on. The latest photo showed 3 people camping in the same spot they were now. Only. The timestamp said April 1997. By morning, Mason was gone. His tent was zipped from the inside. His boots were still there, no drag marks, no signs of struggle. Priya panicked, screamed his name, ran in circles, collapsed. Noah searched for hours, even climbed the nearest ridge to get reception. Nothing. They waited till nightfall, still no sign, and then, sometime after 2 a.m., Noah's phone buzzed. No signal, no app, just a video file. He opened it, shaky camera, wind noise, then Mason's face. He was talking fast, breathless. They're not people, he was saying. Not anymore. Don't trust the mirrors. Don't. Static. Then a frame of someone, or something. Behind him, too tall, skin too pale, eyes all wrong, then black. Priya wanted to drive out immediately, but Noah stopped her. If we leave now, we'll get lost. We need to wait till daylight. They sat in silence, watching, listening. Around 4 a.m. they heard it, knocking, 3 soft knocks, right on the glass of the back window. Priya screamed. They turned, nothing there, but a message was written in the dust again. He's not missing, he's taken. They made it to a ranger station by noon, shaking, pale, barely speaking. They reported Mason missing. The ranger frowned. Are you sure you were camping out there? That entire section's been closed off since 2002. Noah showed him the camera. The ranger's face went blank. This belonged to a group that went missing 22 years ago, he said slowly. Same location. None of them were found. What about the man at the gas station? Priya asked. He told us there hasn't been a gas station on that road since the 90s. Noah and Priya went home. Separate flights. Silence between them. They never talked about what happened. Again, but 3 weeks later, Priya stopped answering calls, then texts, then everything. Noah drove to her apartment. The landlord said she'd moved out, left no forwarding address. Inside her old unit, on the bathroom mirror, a message written in lipstick. Don't trust your reflection. That was the last time Noah slept with the lights off. He saw things now, glimpses in reflections, faces in windows. One night, he was brushing his teeth when the mirror image didn't match. It smiled when he didn't. It tilted its head before he could. It whispered before he spoke. Almost time. 1 year later, a backpack was found, buried in the desert. Inside, Mason's journal, a ripped tent flap, and a photo. 3 people sitting around a fire. One of them, smiling wide, had Noah's face, but Noah doesn't remember taking that photo. Ever. And in the picture, the trees behind him aren't trees. They're watching, breathing, waiting. She got into the car because he said her mother was in the hospital. The problem, her mother had been dead for 5 years, August 2021, just outside Portland, Oregon, Sienna. Wasn't supposed to be traveling. She was supposed to be recovering, still deep in grief after the sudden death of her fiancé, Caleb, in a motorcycle accident that never made sense. But when the silence of her small apartment became unbearable, she packed up her car and started driving. No map, no GPS, just highways and broken playlists. She told herself it was a healing journey. She didn't know it would turn into a nightmare. It started with the man in the green car. She'd pulled over near an old diner after a deer ran across the road. Shaken and needing air. That's when the green sedan rolled up next to her. Dusty, quiet, driver's window halfway down. "You're Sienna, right?" the man asked. He was maybe late 40s, gray beard, soft voice, calm eyes. "I'm sorry. I know you?" she asked, instantly cautious. He didn't answer right away. Then slowly he said, "Your mom's been in an accident. I was sent to find you." Her heart froze. Her mother had died of cancer. 5 years ago. "What are you talking about?" He tilted his head. "You'll want to come with me." She started backing away. And then he said it, word for word, something only her mom used to say, back when Sienna was 10 and terrified of thunderstorms. "Don't let the lightning scare you. You were born from storms." Her legs went weak. She didn't remember getting into his car. The next time she was fully aware, they were already 30 miles down a winding forest road. Trees. So thick the sun barely pierced through. She glanced at her phone. No signal. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To see your mother," he said, almost gently. "I think you're confused. My mom's been dead. She told me you'd say that." His hands gripped the wheel tighter. "She said you wouldn't believe. But it's time now." She locked her door quietly, her pulse thudding in her ears. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. At mile marker 47, the trees changed. Sienna didn't notice at first, but slowly she realized they weren't swaying with the wind. They were breathing, not just the rustle of leaves, actual inhale, exhale. She turned to the man. "I want to get out now." "You can't," he said. "Not until she finishes." "Who?" "Your mother. She's almost done building your room." Sienna tried the door. It wouldn't open. "I'm calling the police." The man smiled. "They won't come here. They don't remember this place exists." Suddenly, the car stopped. They were at the edge of a clearing, in front of a house that looked exactly like Sienna's childhood home, down to the chipped mailbox and faded wind chimes. But it had burned down 10 years ago. She stepped out, heart hammering. Inside, the lights were on. "Go on," the man said, staying in the car. "She's waiting." Sienna walked slowly toward the porch. Each step echoed. She opened the door. The house smelled like memory and rot. There were photos on the wall, old ones, of her as a child, of her parents, of Caleb, even ones she didn't recognize. Her sleeping, her crying, her packing her suitcase just 2 days ago. "How?" she whispered. A voice came from the kitchen. "Tea's ready." It was her mother's voice, soft, clear. She walked in. There, standing in the corner, back turned, was a woman in a floral dress. Familiar, so familiar. "Mom?" The woman turned. It was her face, but not right. Too smooth, too clean, too new, like someone had copied it from a memory that didn't quite load correctly. Sienna stepped back. The woman's smile widened. "I missed you, baby." Sienna shook her head. "You're not real." "I'm here, aren't I?" "No, you died. I held your hand. I buried you. I let that body go. But I never left. Not really." The woman stepped closer. The air got colder. "I built all this for you, so we could be together again. I just needed you to come willingly." Sienna backed toward the door. "Why?" "Because once you choose to stay, you never leave. And that's how we survive now." The room darkened. The shadows moved. Faces formed in the wallpaper, dozens of them silent, staring, trapped. Sienna ran out the door, across the clearing, but the green car was gone. And the forest? No longer trees. They were doorways. Moving, rearranging. She ran down the road, but it bent, shifted, brought her back to the house again and again and again. Night fell, Sienna collapsed on the porch, sobbing. That's when she heard it, a voice behind her, familiar, male. "Hey, Stormborn." Her eyes snapped open. Caleb, standing there, smiling in his old black hoodie. "You're not real," she whispered. He laughed. "Neither is this place. I saw you die. You saw what they wanted you to see." He knelt beside her, touched her face. "This place feeds on grief, on pain, on unresolved love. So, what do I do? Remember. Remember what? Who you are, what you've survived, and that you don't belong to this place." Sienna stood, faced the house. Inside, the shadow version of her mother screamed. It wasn't words, just noise, deep, violent. Sienna walked toward it. With each step she whispered truths. "I forgave you for leaving. I've grieved. I choose to live." The house shook. The walls cracked. The trapped faces began to fade. The last thing she saw was her own reflection in the mirror, smiling, free. She woke up on the side of the highway, head spinning, dust in her mouth. A park ranger stood over her. "Ma'am, are you okay? Your car's a few feet off the road. You must have hit something and passed out." Sienna sat up. Her car was there, parked safely, and in her pocket, a photo of her. And Caleb smiling, but taken in front of a house that no longer existed. On the back, a handwritten note. "You survived. Remember that." They didn't know each other. They'd never crossed paths. Different states, different years, different lives. But all three survivors of these road trip horrors, Zane, Emily, and Sienna, were about to learn a chilling truth. They weren't alone, and none of what happened to them was a coincidence. 1 month later, Northern California. The invitation arrived in plain white envelopes. No return address. Each card contained the same line. "You survived what others couldn't. Now come find out why." 37.8651 again, 119,5383 WGPS coordinates. Deep in the Sierra Nevada, Zane had just returned from therapy, still haunted by his brother's betrayal and the buried girl no one believed existed. Emily had left her job, her home, and everything behind after her encounter with the killer couple. In the Utah desert, Sienna still heard whispers at night, echoes of the forest house that tried to trap her soul. They all hesitated, thought it might be a trap, a prank, or worse, a relapse into the nightmare. But they went, not because they were brave, because they needed answers. The meeting place, an abandoned mountain lodge. It was dusk when Zane arrived, alone, tense. He found Emily already there, sitting on the steps with a pocket knife in her hand. "Zane," she asked. He froze. "How do you know my name?" She held up her phone, a group chat screen none of them remembered joining. But somehow, all their names were there, and then Sienna arrived. The second she stepped out of her car, they all felt it, a strange, heavy pressure in the air. Like gravity had doubled. Something was here, watching or waiting. Inside the lodge, it was dusty, silent. But in the main hall, a projector flickered on by itself. A single video clip began playing, security footage, grainy, black and white, time-stamped, differently for each section. Zane, running from the buried girl in the rain. Emily, hiding from the couple near the gas station. Sienna, screaming in the forest near the fake house, all caught from angles that should have been impossible, as if someone had been watching, filming, all along. The screen went black. Then, a voice. You weren't chosen by accident. The projector switched to a live feed, a woman, late 60s, sharp features, pale eyes. "My name is Dr. Marla Rowan," she said. "You are part of a study that never should have existed." The room froze. "What study?" Sienna whispered. The woman continued. 23 years ago, I worked on a classified psychological experiment funded by a private defense contractor. The goal was to test the effects of fabricated trauma on real individuals, to simulate horror and measure how the mind breaks or survives." Zane clenched his fists. You're saying you created what we went through? No, she said. Something worse. We created the technology, but it attracted something else. What do you mean, something else? Emily asked. Dr. Rowan's eyes seemed to darken on screen. We believed we were simply manipulating environments, controlling fear responses. But the moment we started using real people as subjects, something began feeding off the energy we created. Sienna's heart dropped. Like a spirit? No, not a ghost. Something older. Something that doesn't have a name. It grows in dark places, in grief, in betrayal, in isolation. You're saying it's alive? It's sentient, and once it knows you, it never lets go. Zane stood up. So what? This thing hunted us down for fun? No, it didn't choose you randomly, the doctor said. You all had one thing in common. You were emotionally fractured, and that made you the perfect test subjects. Sienna's voice cracked. Then why are we still alive? The doctor leaned in closer to the camera. Because you broke the cycle. You did what most couldn't. You confronted your fear. You faced betrayal, and you still chose to survive. That weakened it. Emily's eyes welled up. So it's over. Dr. Rowan shook her head. No, it's angry. And now it's coming for all of you. Together. The feed cut. Suddenly the power in the lodge died. Darkness swallowed everything. The front door slammed shut, and from the woods outside, a low, vibrating hum began, almost like a growl. The air turned electric. Zane grabbed a flashlight. We have to move. Now. But the second the beam turned on, they saw it, a figure in the window, watching, its face, a shifting mix of all their worst memories. Caleb, the killer woman, the buried girl, each one blinking in and out, flickering like a broken film reel. Emily screamed. Sienna pulled them all toward the back exit. Run! There's a trail through the pines! They ran for miles, but the woods weren't normal anymore. Paths, looped. Shadows whispered. Trees leaned in closer with every step. This is like Sienna's story, Zane panted. The forest that breathes. Because it's using our memories, she gasped. It's trying to separate us. Just then, the ground beneath Emily cracked. She fell into a ditch. Vanished. Emily, they shouted, but no voice answered. Emily opened her eyes in a hospital bed. White walls, monitors, quiet, beeping. Had it all been a hallucination? Miss Calloway, a nurse said gently, you've been in a coma for 2 weeks. You were found near a collapsed hiking trail. Do you remember what happened? Emily blinked. No, The nurse smiled and walked away, but Emily froze, because on the nurse's clipboard was a logo, the same one she saw on the gas station receipt the night of her horror Virex research group. The experiment was still happening. Back in the forest, Sienna and Zane reached a clearing, and there, lying on the grass, was a journal. Sienna picked it up. It was her handwriting. But she'd never written this. If you're reading this, you made it farther than most. But surviving isn't enough. You have to choose. Keep running, or face it, and end this for good. Zane looked around. What does it mean? Sienna met his eyes. It means we stop being victims. We go back, we face the house. 1 week later, final location. The original test facility burned, abandoned, buried in federal silence, but still standing. Sienna and Zane snuck in at midnight. Inside, they found remnants, photos of them, diagrams of fear cycles, folders labeled Project Echo, and in the center room, a console, powered, active, the same projector that had shown their videos. Sienna flipped a switch. A single line blinked on screen. Feed terminated. Subjects escaped. System failure imminent. Zane stared. Then why is it still watching us? Sienna whispered. Because we remember it. Because fear remembers us. Then she opened a hatch in the console. Wires. Fuses. A kill switch. You ready? Zane nodded. Let's burn it all. They destroyed the lab, and with it, the last living piece of the thing that had followed them through highways, woods, and memories. The final spark died. The air lightened, and far away, in a hospital room, Emily opened her eyes again, this time truly awake. Epilogue. 6 months later, Sienna teaches trauma therapy now, helps others face the dark. Zane runs a wilderness retreat for survivors. Emily writes anonymously, telling true horror stories, warning others. They don't keep in touch often, but once a year on the anniversary, they meet in person. No phones, no internet, just a quiet place, just in case. Because even though the nightmare is over, they never forget what it taught them. Real monsters don't hide in shadows. They wear familiar faces. They live inside grief. And the only way out is through. The end.